Welcome to my channel. A scarred Navy chief wearing a contractor, limited access badge tries to stay invisible until 5 swaggering recruits corner her in the mess hall and learn, in 31 blistering seconds, why you never poke quiet water. Her takedown goes viral on base, thrusting Valerie v. Park from medical limbo to the sands of Coronado, where brass demand she forged the next generation of SEALs while battling her own ghosts. They say August heat in Arroyo Bluff can blister paint off a Humvee, but I still run the perimeter road at dawn. At 500 the asphalt is purple-gray, the sun nothing but a rumor, and 3 laps, 5 miles, wake the lungs enough to remind me I'm alive, even if the Navy hasn't decided what to do with me yet. Name's Valerie v. Park, 34, temporarily assigned to Dawson Logistics Center outside San Marcos, New Mexico. Officially, I'm a civilian quartermaster auditing spare parts inventory while the base migrates to a new supply system. Unofficially, I'm a sailor in limbo, waiting on a medical discharge board that's been rescheduled 4 times. Bureaucracy clots slower than bad blood, but it still decides who stays and who goes. The badge on my lanyard flashes contractor, limited access, and the kids in training read it the way coyotes test a weak fence. They see the neat bun, the silver scar that slips under my collar, the way I keep quiet in the chow line, and figure I'm either shy or soft. Both guesses are wrong, but silence costs less than explanations, much less than confrontations. Trouble found me on a Tuesday right after morning PT call. I was walking the ribbon of pavement between the motor pool and Barracks C, fresh asphalt shimmering like oil, when 2 transport jockeys decided to play bumper cars. One deliberate shoulder check sent my clipboard skittering, requisition forms fluttering across the blacktop like startled pigeons. "Eyes up, ma'am," one of them barked without slowing. I knelt, gathered papers, and breathed through the spike of adrenaline. My pulse stayed level, but a different muscle twitched, the one that counts exits, clocks threats, and weighs retaliation against paperwork. I let them swagger off. Firms don't file themselves. I figured that would be the end of it. For days later they came back, with 3 friends, and that's when the real story began. Inventory days in Building 12 feel like breathing into a brown paper bag, stale, thin, endlessly repetitive. Shelves of ancient sinkers, grease-dark headsets, and radio guts older than most recruits sit under shop lights that hum at 60 hertz. That Friday, I was bent over a crate scribbling serials when the echo of sneakers on concrete told me I'd drawn company. Trey Colton led the pack. 22, farm boy blonde, a smile he'd probably practiced in gas station mirrors back in Missouri. Behind him trailed Marcus Sheff, whose voice carried like cheap speakers, and Boone Harris, the bench press addict who mistook mass for menace. Gabe Mercer and Nico Rivas rounded out the set, Gabe all shoulders and 0 neck, Nico thin as rebar and twice as twitchy. They called themselves the Ridge Crew, like an inside joke no one else found funny. "Didn't know quartermasters came with their own fan club," Trey said, leaning against the shelves so casual a canteen tumbled off and clanged near my boots. I kept my pen moving. "Watch your elbows. Some of this gear predates your grandparents. You break it, you catalog it." Marcus snorted. "We were hoping you'd catalog something else for us, like where you hide after chow." "Paperwork hides nowhere," I answered, still bent over the crate. "It multiplies under fluorescent light. You boys need something signed?" Boone puffed up like a weather front. "Nah, just wondering why you act like the rest of us got fleas." That flick of temper in his tone, there it was. A warning bell rang in my ribs, same pitch I'd heard in far darker rooms. I set the clipboard down and straightened, giving them the calm square-on look that used to make junior sailors forget their own names. "Gentlemen, there's a sign-out sheet by the door. Fill it, get your radios, and please, mind the inventory seals." Gabe chuckled. "Hear that? Gentlemen, she thinks we're fancy." Nico's knee bounced like a sewing machine pedal. Maybe she's saving that premium customer service for officers. I felt my jaw set, but before words could crawl out, a new set of boots clacked in, slow, deliberate. Gunnery Sergeant Jonah Briggs, Rangemaster turned training chief, the kind of Marine who could deliver a sermon with a single eyebrow. He studied the tableau. 5 grinning pups, one woman holding a grease-penciled clipboard like a shield. The silence stretched. Even Marcus's mouth stalled. "Problem here?" Briggs asked, voice as mild as iced tea. Trey flashed that practiced grin. "No, Gunny. Just integrating with base personnel." Briggs tasted the phrase the way a mechanic tastes radiator fluid. Integration. Innovative term. His gaze slid to me, a quiet question. I gave the faintest shake of my head. Nothing I couldn't handle. But he clocked the tension anyway. You could see the calculation in the corners of his eyes. He turned back to the Ridge crew. "You boys free this afternoon?" Gabe answered too quick. "Yes, Gunny." "Good. Report to Range 3 at 1400. We're correcting your sight picture habits. Bring full kit. You'll be there a while." His smile never warmed. Integration exercise. The five muttered a chorus of, "Aye, Gunny," and drifted out, swagger dented but not gone. Marcus shot me a look over his shoulder, half promise, half dare. When they were out of earshot, Briggs spoke again, softer. "You all right, Park?" "I'm fine. Inventory waits for no man." He nodded, but tapped 2 fingers to the scar under my collar, a gesture as subtle as it was direct. "Still waters, V. Rip currents underneath." "I know, Gunny." "Make sure they do," he said, then left me to radios and humming lights. By 1830, I'd filed the last serial number and signed the lockup ledger. My stomach growled, but my head argued. Skip chow and avoid them, or eat on schedule and refuse to be chased. Pride won. I took the path toward the mess hall, dust still clinging to my boots, telling myself the day's storms had already passed. I had no idea the real lightning was waiting just beyond the serving line. When evening chow rolls toward closing, the mess deck feels like a half-emptied stadium after a losing game. Plate scrapings, fluorescent hum, that peculiar hush of people who'd rather be anywhere else. I slid my tray down the stainless rail, rehydrated beef, stew, wilted greens, cornbread dense enough to anchor a skiff. Calories, nothing more. Habit steered me to the two-top by the west windows, back to the cinder block wall, whole room in my sight picture. I'd spooned 3 bites before the doors swung wide, and the air took on static. 5 silhouettes spilled in, limbs loose, voices pitched too loud for a hall this empty. The Ridge crew. Trey clocked me first. His grin widened like curtain rise on opening night. They fanned out, boots slapping tile, Marcus drifting left, Boone and Gabe on a slow intercept, Nico pivoting toward the drink station, cutting off my nearest exit. A bad ballet, but choreographed all the same. I kept eating. Clatter of tray to tabletop as Trey slid into the chair opposite mine without invitation. "Look who finally mingles," he said, leaning back like he owned the place. I swallowed before answering. "Evening." Marcus laughed, broad and brittle. "She's got words after all." Boone folded his arms, muscles flexing for an audience of one. "Maybe she's saving the good talk for special company." I set my spoon down, leveled my eyes at Trey. "Gentlemen, table's taken. Find another." Trey tapped a knuckle on my tray. "We like this one." He glanced at the scars peeking above my collar line. Faint constellations of healed shrapnel. "Curious history on that canvas of yours." Gabe edged closer behind my right shoulder, the cornbread anchor of anxiety settling in my gut. "We figure a quiet gal must have stories," he murmured. "Stories cost cover charge," I said, voice flat. "You can't afford it." Marcus barked a laugh. "She's spicy." "Here's the thing," Trey continued, low, conspiratorial. "You walk around like you've got your own gravity field. Folks start to wonder if you think you're better." "I think I prefer peace," I answered. "You're allergic to it." Nico returned from the drink station, stainless mug in hand, my exit officially blocked. He jingled ice like a warning rattle. "Maybe we help you loosen up." Trey's grin thinned into something serrated. "Take off the t-shirt, V. Let's see what makes you so special." The demand cracked through the hush. A loan supply clerk at the far end paused mid-bite. My pulse didn't spike. Training locked it down. I scanned vectors. 5 aggressors, 2 exits, 32 feet of open tile. No weapons visible, but fists can cave a skull just fine. "No," I said, steady. Boone scoffed. "Didn't sound like a choice." I exhaled once, long, deliberate, a diver settling before a plunge. "What happens next is on you." Gabe's hand reached for my shoulder seam. Time fractured. I shot up, chair skittering. Left elbow jackhammered Gabe's sternum, Breath fled him in a wet grunt. Before Boone could process, I pivoted. Heel hook behind his knee, palm strike under his chin. 6'2" of protein toppled like felled lumber. Marcus lunged. I sidestepped, seized wrist, rotated. Momentum flipped him over my hip, tray rails ringing with the impact. Nico's mug arced toward my head. I ducked, driving a knee into his ribs, then a short chop to the brachial plexus. Lights out. Marionette strings cut. Trey was last, still seated, shock freezing him half-rise. I grabbed the edge of his table, torqued it. Stew, cornbread, and one aspiring tyrant hit the deck in a gravy tide. 31 seconds. I counted without meaning to. Silence shivered through the mess hall, broken only by Trey's dazed wheeze and the drip of broth off overturned trays. I stood in the wreckage, breath measured, hands loose at my sides, feeling the old ache in my reconstructed shoulder, but otherwise intact. 5 recruits lay sprawled like mis-stacked mannequins. Behind the serving line, a wide-eyed cook whispered, "Holy Mary," then backed out of sight. Trey stared up at me, lips split, pupils huge. What are you?" I squatted so he could read my eyes. Chief Petty Officer Valerie Park, United States Navy, on medhold, not retirement. 2 tours Coronado, 1 Horn of Africa. 34 months outside the wire. His throat bobbed. I continued. "I eat alone because quiet keeps me harmless. You boys just filed the wrong request." I rose, straightened my tea, and addressed the room. "Anyone else need demonstration?" Nothing but ventilation fans answered. I righted my chair, finished the last bite of cornbread, dry as chalk, but victory tastes like whatever's on the spoon. Then stacked trays, wiped the table, and walked out, boots echoing in the corridor of stunned silence. 10 minutes after I cleared the doors, red strobes painted the corridor, and security radios crackled my name like a broken record. Word travels faster than blood pools. 2 shore patrol corporals intercepted me outside contractor housing. Their eyes kept drifting to the flecks of stew on my sleeve, as if evidence might confess before I did. They walked me to admin in a silence so taut you could string a guitar with it. Captain Marla Dunn, base XO, all steel gray bun and regulation posture, waited behind her desk, incident folder already bulging. "Chief Park," she began, though my paperwork still said Ms. Explain. I gave her the play-by-play, provocation, encirclement, the non-consensual hands. I spelled it out clinical, like dictating a medevac log. Dunn's pen barely moved. She'd seen the security cams by then, grainy but decisive. 5 hospitalized recruits complicate my week, she said, sliding the folder shut. But assaulting a sailor isn't a protected hobby. You're clear. She paused. Still, HQ review boards love tidy optics. Might be smart to disappear until this cools. I nodded. Already planning emergency leave. Family and Flagstaff. Paperwork hits my desk by 09. Your badge deactivates at noon. She stood, offered a hand. The gesture surprised me. Some learn respect from lectures. Others need demonstration. Thank you for teaching a difficult class. Outside, desert twilight bled lavender over the motor pool. Gunny Briggs leaned against a fuel truck, arms crossed. Heard the symphony in the mess hall, he said. Clattering percussion section. I answered. He handed me a manila envelope. My original duty orders, corners dog-eared. Transfer came through. Naval Special Warfare Center, Coronado. They want you coaching advanced combatives once the med board clears. Wind tugged loose strands of my hair. The scent of diesel and mesquite mixed like old memories. I might be out of the fight for good, Gunny. Briggs shook his head. A blade's still a blade, even with a nicked edge. Let the forge decide. We shared a quiet that felt like respect made audible. Then he pushed off the truck and started away, but called over his shoulder. Take a breath, V. Even storm clouds need furlough. I watched him fade into sodium lights, the envelope warming in my grip. Somewhere behind me, stretcher wheels squeaked toward an ambulance bay, carrying 5 lessons wrapped in gauze. I didn't feel triumph, only the familiar aftertaste of survival. Coppery, sober, necessary. Back in quarters I packed light. 1 duffel, 1 sealed pill bottle, 1 folded photo of my kid sister graduating nursing school. As I zipped the bag, the base loudspeakers announced taps. Bugle notes drifted across Arroyo Bluff like a lullaby for the weary and the stubborn. I closed my eyes and let the melody stitch shut the ripped edges of the day. Tomorrow at dawn I'd drive west, chasing the thin silver thread of highway that hems the desert to the sky. Quiet again, on my own terms. But the Ridge boys wouldn't forget, and neither would I. I rolled out of Dawson's Gate at 4:30, taillights punching holes in the dark, while Orion still ruled the sky. The guard at the checkpoint saluted. I returned 2 fingers off the wheel, habit that never dies. 10 minutes later the base sat behind me like a campfire gone cold, and Highway 380 stretched ahead, 2 ribbons of faded paint slicing open the desert. With the radio off, the truck cab filled with tire hum and the low click of my rebuilt shoulder each time I checked the mirrors. 100 miles in, sunrise burst over the basin, lavender first, then molten copper pouring across scrub and yucca. I cracked the window, warm sage rushed in, tangled with diesel and the aftershave that clung to the seatbelt from whoever signed this pool vehicle out last. The farther I drove, the louder old ghosts got. Not voices, more like snapshots pinned behind my eyes. Dust devils corkscrewing over the Coronado, tracers ripping night into orange commas, Petty Officer Ruiz laughing 3 minutes before everything went sideways. I tried the breathing drill the corpsman taught me. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6, but memories don't honor cadence. Near Socorro, I pulled off at a diner named Red Stoplight, a mismatched string of neon bulbs and promises of world-famous pie. The waitress called everyone sweetheart, poured coffee strong enough to ballast a ship. I sat at the counter, hands wrapped around the mug, watching truckers shuffle in, watching how regular life keeps moving even when yours idles on the shoulder. A news feed on the wall-mounted TV ran footage of Navy graduation at Great Lakes. Kids crisp in whites, eyes bright as unfired brass. I felt a strange mix of pride and distance, like I was both mother hen and ghost. Back on the highway, cell signal flickered. Voicemail popped from Commander Leary, the board liaison. Need confirmation you'll appear in person, Chief. Docs came back. We're optimistic. Call by COB. Optimistic. Funny word. Means they figure everything still works if you ignore the nights I wake choking on cordite that isn't there. By dusk, I crossed the state line into Arizona. The Gila River Valley glowed tangerine. Mountains saw-toothed against the melt of the day. I pulled into a roadside motel, dusty sign blinking vacancy like Morse code, and rented room 7, ground floor, far corner. 2 exits, blinds unbroken, no upstairs footsteps. I showered till the hot water gave up, then lay on the bedspread listening to cicadas drill the night. My service pistol was locked back at Dawson, per contractor regs, but my K-bar rode the duffel. I slid it under the pillow and let the desert silence settle. Tomorrow I'd reach Flagstaff, hug my baby sister, and maybe remember how to be someone other than a cautionary tale. Sleep didn't come easy. It never does when the road behind you still echoes with lessons taught in broken noses and overturned trays. But somewhere near midnight, fatigue outvoted vigilance. I dreamed of tidewater breezes off Coronado, salt, kelp, and the clang of BUD/S boats on wet sand, wondering if that forge gunny spoke of still had a place for steel like mine. The motel alarm chirped at 500, but I was already lacing boots when it went off. An hour later, I crested the Mogollon Rim, pine scent replacing desert dust so fast it felt like changing channels. Flagstaff unfolded beneath cloud-scraped peaks, red roofs, college spires, a railroad line etching silver through town. I hadn't been home in 4 years. It looked smaller, but maybe I'd just grown edges. Cassie met me at Raven's Grind, the coffee shop where she studied anatomy back when she still owned flashcards. She burst through the door in turquoise scrubs, hair stuffed under a bandana printed with cartoon cacti. Her hug squeezed the scar on my ribs, but the ache was worth the grounding. Little sis smells like eucalyptus and latex gloves, hospital perfume. V, she said, eyes shining the way only civilians manage before night shift drains it out. You look taller? Scar tissue adds inches, I joked, sliding into the booth. She ordered 2 lattes plus a cinnamon scone big enough to threaten structural integrity. We swapped headlines. Her oncology ward overloaded, my inventory job tedious but necessary. I dodged the mess hall incident. No reason to salt her coffee. But Cassie's sharper than most lieutenant commanders I've served. Her gaze drifted to the tape peeking from beneath my left wrist brace. Trouble. Occupational flare-up. I blew on foam. You know how it is. She didn't push, just reached across the formica and gave my hand a nurse's squeeze. Gentle inspection wrapped in love. Outside, freight cars clanked, hauling lumber toward markets that still build things from trees. Life kept moving. My phone vibrated, the liaison again. Cassie raised an eyebrow. I mouthed work and stepped out into the high country chill. Ponderosa needles whispered overhead, while Commander Leary's voice crackled tinny. Chief, board convenes Friday 0900. They want you in Coronado Thursday for medical verification. And Park. Word of that Dawson incident rode the grapevine. Some suits are curious. Curious good or curious career ending? Undecided. Show up squared away and let the record speak. I thumbed the scar below my collar. Roger that. I hung up, studied the San Francisco peaks, blue against a cobalt sky, and felt the old pull between duty and distance. Inside, Cassie boxed the uneaten half of the scone, road snack. She scrawled on the lid with a smiley face. More miles, she guessed. Always. I kissed her forehead. I'll circle back after California. She hugged me again, tighter. Just circle back. That's all I need. Driving west on I-40, coffee steam mingling with mountain air, I realized Flagstaff still felt like home, but the road, for better or worse, felt like me. Coronado waited with answers or more questions. Either way, momentum was a language I still spoke. By Wednesday dawn, the Pacific shimmered on my left like hammered tin. I crossed the Strand into NAB Coronado, windows down, brine and jet fuel braided on the breeze. Sea lions barked beneath the pier. Gulls wheeled lazy circles over the grinder where candidates were already paying rent with flutter kicks. The gate guard scanned my ID, eyes snagging on the temp leave stamp before snapping a salute. Funny how a stitched-up rating badge still tilts the room. Billeting handed me a barracks key and a schedule thick as a novella. Labs at 1100, Ortho Review 1330, Psych Eval 1600. The Navy loves acronyms and waiting rooms. Today promised both. I stashed the duffel, splashed water on road dust skin, and headed for medical in starched khakis that felt like someone else's uniform. First stop, radiology. The tech slid my shoulder beneath cold machinery while classic rock hissed from a ceiling speaker. Hold your breath, she said. I'd been holding it for years. Next, a corpsman measured grip strength. Left hand still weak, right hand cracked the dynamometer like a walnut. He raised brows. I shrugged. In the ortho office, Commander Patel studied fresh films. Hardware stable, range good. Any pain? Ghost twinges when the weather sulks. He smiled. Weather's perfect here, Chief. You'll manage. After lunch, tuna surprise that surprised no one. I climbed 2 flights to Psych. Lieutenant Barnes, trim beard and kind eyes, ushered me into a sunlit room that smelled of new carpet. Walk me through Dawson, he said, recorder blinking red. I recounted the mess hall ballet. 5 aggressors, 31 seconds, minimal force. His pen scratched like crickets. Anger level. 0 until contact. Business after that. He nodded, tapped the file. You know NCIS flagged it. They may want a statement. Happy to oblige as long as they spell my name right. Barnes chuckled, but his gaze sharpened. Chief, you operated within ROE, yet incidents follow you like contrails. Some boards see liability. Some see capability, I countered. Depends which way the wind's blowing. He closed the folder. Tomorrow you meet the line admirals. Show them wind can be harnessed. Evening draped the base in bronze. I walked the beach barefoot, salt stinging the old burn on my shoulder, while BUD/S students lugged boats past, sand masks cracked with exhaustion. One kid glanced over, eyes pleading for whatever strength I carried. I gave him a nod, small transfusion of resolve, and he dug deeper. Back in the barracks, I opened Cassie's scone box. Crumbs and cinnamon filled the room, proof that home can fit in a 6-inch square. I wrote 2 words on a sticky note, forge ready, and stuck it to my mirror. Tomorrow, the hammers would fall. I intended to leave sparks. Thursday, 0900. Conference room G bristled with brass. 2 rear admirals, a civilian doctor, and a JAG rep. I faced them in summer whites, palms dry, shoulder bandage showing beneath the fabric edge. Admiral Kent spoke first. Chief Park, Your record reads conflict magnet. Explain Dawson in one sentence. 5 trainees cornered me. I ended it fast. No one died. Kent's brow lifted. Efficiency noted. But why keep putting yourself near trouble? I don't. Trouble keeps misjudging quiet. They flipped through service folders, Coronado stats, citations, x-rays. Dr. Suarez summarized. Hardware solid, PTSD manageable, fitness above baseline. Jag leaned forward. If we return you to active status, can you throttle back? I met his gaze. I never swing first, sir. I just finish. Silence stretched, ceiling fan clicked. Then Admiral Reeves, older and colder, said, show us. They walked me to the mats behind the gym. 2 fleet MPs waited, padded gear on. Reeves barked, rule, disable without injury. Whistle blew. First MP rushed, telegraph punch. I parried, wrist lock, guided him flat. Second aimed for my ribs. I pivoted, hip throw, knee on sternum, open hand hovering but not striking. 12 seconds total. Reeves checked his chrono, almost smiled. Board will deliberate. An hour later, paperwork slid across the table. Return to limited duty, NSWC instructor billet, 6-month reevaluation. I signed before the ink dried. Outside, the tide was low and gleaming. I phoned Cassie. Forge kept me. Her laugh tinkled through static. Knew it. Come home when you can, without bruises. Deal. I pocketed the orders, heart lighter than it had been in years. That night, I stood on the seawall, waves thumping pylons, and let the wind scour the last of Dawson's dust from my lungs. Tomorrow the real work, teaching, would begin, but tonight the horizon looked wide open, and for once the silence felt like peace, not preparation. Day 1 as an instructor smells like rubber mats and fresh sweat. 0500 and the grinder is dark blue, students already lined up, 8 SEAL candidates, nerves crackling through their posture. My shoulder tugs when I clap, gathering them around the plywood ring. I'm Chief Park. My job isn't to break you. Friction and your own minds will handle that. I teach how to finish a fight without starting a war. A kid named Alvarez raises a hand. Ma'am, is it true you dropped 5 guys in 30 seconds? Rumors carry faster than tidewater. I don't confirm or deny, just tap the timer on my watch. Questions end when this hits 0. Pair up. They scatter. I circulate, correcting foot angles, tightening guard positions. 1 recruit. Morrison keeps swinging haymakers, chest heaving with ego. I stop him mid-punch, guide his fist an inch off target. Power's fine, precision's freedom. He blinks, absorbs it, nods. Mid-session, Senior Chief Blake strides in, older frog, shark eyes kind. He watches Morrison attempt the wrist turn I demonstrated. Candidate fumbles, Blake barks, reset, louder than necessary. After class, Blake corners me by the equipment cage. You coddle, he says. I calibrate, I reply. They'll meet chaos soon enough. Better to learn control first. He grunts, unconvinced, but the corner of his mouth twitches, half respect, half challenge. We'll dance later. Evening debrief. Candidates sit cross-legged, see wind lifting chalk dust. I tell them the rule that saved me in a mess hall. People mistake silence for weakness. Make quiet your camouflage, not your cage. Alvarez scribbles the line on his wrist tape. Lights out finds me alone in my modest BQ room. Boots by the door, Cassie's cinnamon spoon box now holding spare earplugs and a note. Proud of you. Stay safe. I set tomorrow's lesson plan, ground transitions, and thumb the edge of my deployment photo. The base settles, waves hush the shoreline, and for the first time since Dawson, I feel the pulse of purpose steady, not frantic. Forge ready, steel tempered. Next sunrise, the hammer swings again. Weeks roll quick when purpose snaps into place. Classes double, bruises bloom on recruits and fade again, replaced by competence. Even Senior Chief Blake stops growling. One day, he just nods across the mat. In Navy language, that's a handshake. Late Friday, command posts the Dawson inquiry results. Self-defense confirmed, no further action. One slim email, but it feels like unshackling a weight I'd carried since the stew hit the tiles. I celebrate with a run along Silver Strand at dusk. Pelicans skim the breakers. Coronado Bridge glints like a bayonet catching sun. Halfway back, I notice 2 silhouettes jogging behind. Candidates Alvarez and Morrison, keeping my pace. They don't speak, they just fall into stride. Respect earned, not demanded. At chow I sit beside them. No one freezes, no one stares, just clatter of trays and the salt-fat smell of fries. Community built, quietly. That night I video call Cassie from the barracks lounge. She's on break, hair in a messy bun, coffee in hand. Look at you, she says, eyes soft. Colors back in your face. Sand and seawater, cheap makeup. I lift the camera toward the mat room beyond the glass. Forges running full blast. She grins. Then keep pouring steel. Just remember to come home between heats. Promise. We hang up. The lounge clock clicks toward 2200. I head for the door but pause, listening to the hush. No alarms in my blood, just ordinary quiet. Feels new. Feels good. Outside, the moon stains the Pacific silver. I breathe deep, scar tissue stretching but not protesting, and think about the students who will outgrow my lessons, about Cassie's laughter, about how silence, once my armor, has become space for something lighter. Tomorrow the grinder will roar again. I'll be there, whistle ready, voice steady, not louder, just clearer. And if trouble ever wanders close, it'll learn what Arroyo Bluff's recruits learned that night. Some people keep the storm inside, and the calm you see is only the surface of very deep water. For now, though, the water is still, and I let it hold me.